Go ahead.
Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a shift from a state of emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and greater peace of mind. Helping Parents Heal goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non-dogmatic way. Helping Parents Heal affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and encourage open dialogue. Attendance at all Helping Parents Heal meetings is voluntary. All discussions that take place at affiliate-led meetings are confidential. We hope that participants will learn from and share with each other. Zoom meetings run by leadership are not confidential. These meetings typically feature guest presenters and are posted on YouTube so that affiliate members worldwide can watch and benefit. Neither type of Helping Parents Heal meeting is designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many possible ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with our children who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members, so we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone, and welcome, Susanne. We're so glad to have you here this evening.
Yes, we are so glad to have Susanne here this evening. It's just wonderful. And I was saying before we started the recording that Susanne was the first medium that helped me along the healing path in the very beginning. She's been a part of Helping Parents Heal for many years. And just recently, she's been very busy during COVID. So anyway, we're really thrilled to have her here. I am going to read a very short bio that she sent in so that you know a little bit more about her. Susanne J. Wilson, MA, is a Carefree, Arizona-based intuition educator, author, medium, and paranormal presenter. Susanne is known as the Carefree Medium, appearing on Coast to Coast AM, Gaia, Fox News National Edition, and Amazon Films. With a master's degree in public affairs policy, a bachelor's degree in management, and certifications from Stanford University, Susanne is a well-recognized researcher and educator on a wide range of paranormal topics. Her website is www.carefreemedium.com. I'm going to put that into the chat box. But I'm just going to also let you know she has several books. She has Soul Smart, which is, I feel very grateful to actually be a part of myself. And then she also has a book called When Your Partner Doesn't Believe. She did a video, a Zoom, which is on our YouTube channel about this topic as well. She's been in Life to Afterlife, I Want to Talk to the Dead, the documentary, as well as Superpower film, and then as well as a corporate to medium video for Gaia. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Susanne Wilson, the Carefree Medium. Welcome, Susanne.
Thanks, EVB, and thanks, Irene. And you know, I've called you EVB since I think the first time that I met you. I don't know how that happened, but every once in a while, I just see those initials in my mind's eye, and I know that you've probably thought of me, and I'm thinking of you. So thank you very much for that gift, and thanks to the board and everybody for inviting me. I'm happy to be here. It has been a little while, and I will tell you that I was so honored to be in the right time at the right place, to be utilized by spirit. I often say that spirit is, and I mean the spirit people, the living and existing and loving spirit people, their communication is like water. It travels the path of least resistance. And I was very fortunate to, a dozen years ago or more, before there was a Helping Parents Heal organization, walk into a yoga studio and look for a room to rent to meet with clients. And I was new in town, having moved to Arizona from Florida. And the yoga studio, the owner's idea of testing me to see if I was legit was to thrust a photo in my hands and have me connect with spirit through the photo. And it was a picture of Elizabeth's children. And immediately her son came in with details that the yoga studio owner wrote down. She didn't know if any of it was correct. And she contacted Elizabeth later on when we found how miraculous that connection was. I met Mark Ireland and I put those two together. I told Mark about Elizabeth, told Elizabeth about Mark, and the rest is history. So listen, folks, from the first meeting of about 50 people in Cave Creek, Arizona, to how many tens of thousands members now
Uh,
worldwide?
we have over 25,000 now on Facebook, so there's a lot more now than there were back in
That
2009.
is amazing. And just think, it's even more than that because of those members. There's probably family members in that house for some of the folks there, because you have all of these wonderful groups within your group to support people in their different relationships to the loved one who now lives on the other side of life. It's even bigger. But I can remember going back to one of the original meetings where I'm like the only medium. I was glad that very quickly Jamie Clark came on board to help. Tina Powers came on board to help. But in the very beginning, it was growing so fast. And one of the messages that came through when I was up on platform at the Logos Center in Scottsdale was, this is going to be a global group. And it was. And I can remember when I said that, as it came out of my mouth, I was looking at the audience and I thought, global, how can I say this when there's 60 people? But I remember to this day, almost every head was nodding yes, because there was a sense of being part of something bigger. And I just saw a big white flash of light. I saw that with my my clairvoyance is really, really strong, but it was my objective clairvoyance, meaning I saw the white light as though it's in the room. Objective, you see it objectively. Subjectively would be in the mind's eye. When I see that white flash of light objectively, like it's really here, it's a super strong spiritual presence. So I know that we're meant to begin right now by celebrating the fact that you're all here and that you're all together, and the people that watch this later, that you're part of some huge collective consciousness of bringing healing to all of the hearts that are in need of being touched, and knowing that no one we love is ever really lost. What we've lost is the physical contact, but no one we love is ever really lost. One of the main subjects I want to talk about tonight is, what does my loved one look like now? Because I'm privileged to have a really good account of a loved one coming in to the father on one instance, and then coming in later to the mother, and they both saw their loved one in the dream state. And so I want to share that with you in just a little bit. But first, I have a brief clip, I think it's 6 or 7 minutes, that Carl Fink prepared from, it's excerpts from your very first conference. I did a keynote called Hiking in Heaven. And a couple years ago, I asked Carl from Streaming for the Soul to condense that presentation down. And it really tells you that friendships are made in heaven, and that your kids who didn't even meet in the physical world can meet up, and often do, on the other side of life. So I'm going to play that clip for you now. And I also want to have time for questions. So here we go.
I want to tell you about hiking in heaven. I want to introduce you to Brian Ruff. A few days after I finally met Elizabeth and did her reading, I was doing a phone reading for a woman named Jody, a very lovely woman. I had only known her first name. Very quickly into the reading, it was evident that she had a son in spirit. And this young man came in, such a beautiful energy, and so happy because he had been reunited with 4 buddies about his age on the other side of life. Brian was a wonderful young man, cadet at the Citadel, and you can see that picture of him at the Citadel with his mom. What happened was there were 4 friends of his that invited him on a road trip to go south to a sports game. Brian had a nightmare that there would be a car accident and everyone would be killed. He tried to talk the boys out of going, and they teased him and they razzed him, like, come on, let's go. He didn't go on the trip. They went. The car crash happened. They passed into the other side of life. Brian felt really bad about that. He didn't understand that that dream wasn't for him to prevent it from happening. That dream was a soul recognition of the fact that it was going to happen. Things went downhill from there, and Brian decided to leave the earth. And he left the earth while sitting in his beloved Ford Mustang. So all this information's coming through. Little, you know how it comes in the little pieces and the evidence. It's just really comforting for this beautiful energy of this woman, Jody. I could feel her love through the phone. She's happy to know that he was seeing his buddies, that he was doing great, that he is still around his brother Bobby here on the earth. But then the most unusual, unexpected, strange thing happened. This guy showed up. There's another young man here with your son. I've met this young man before. Do you know Morgan Boisson? She said, no, I don't think so. I said, well, have you guys ever lived in France? No. Arizona? No. Is there any way that these boys could have met? I don't think so, Suzanne. Well, okay. Hi, Morgan. Glad that you're here. And then I start watching clairvoyantly, and I can see what Morgan is doing is he's showing Ryan how to communicate. He's coaching him. He's helping him. And they're having so much fun. It's kind of like they're nudging each other and they're teasing. And it was just a happy, joyful expression of being together. It was amazing. They showed me, look at where we are. It's gorgeous. And isn't that beautiful? There were actually more flowers, bright colored flowers in the scene that I saw. And they said, look, we're wearing our boots. And Brian made a point to show me his boots. And his mom said, yeah, he was wearing those boots when he passed to the other side. I said, well, they seem really happy. And they want you to know that they're friends. And then the next thing that happened was, Brian says, tell my mom we're hiking in heaven. I'm like, oh, isn't that nice? That just felt good. I got this warm, fuzzy feeling. And I asked Jody, does that mean something to you? And she says, well, he likes to hike, and I'm glad that they're friends, but it's nice. So I said, okay, this is good enough for me. I give the evidence, don't, try to evaluate it. That's for the receiver. I would find out soon that it was significant. Contact Elizabeth. She's delighted that her son's helping another young man. Of course, that would happen dozens of times after that. That was only the beginning, because the kids do help each other. And so she and Jody connected, and they're still in touch with each other 8 years later. So a little while, a couple of weeks after I did the phone reading for Jody, this lady enters the scene, Miss Tina Powers. Elizabeth said, I'm going to be getting a reading from a medium in Tucson. Do you want to go? And I'm like, no, I wish I could, but can't make it. Okay. So Tina had met one of Morgan's sisters, Elise. So she had some knowledge about Morgan, but she was going to be doing a reading for Morgan's mom, Elizabeth. So Morgan comes in, and he's this affable, happy, loving guy, big teddy bear self. In fact, their license plate says Big Bear in his honor. And he's giving the validation. And there are things that there's no way Tina could know. And it's going, it's really neat. It's a neat connection. But there's something stunning about to happen. Tina now says, there is another young man with Morgan. And I see a Mustang horse, and they symbolize something. And I hear Amazing Grace, and Tina says that's one of her signs that she gets for transitioning to the spirit world. So we have the Mustang horse and the transitioning to the spirit world. So in Elizabeth's mind, she starts thinking of this guy. Tina doesn't know anything about the connection between Morgan and Brian. Not a thing. We wait for it, and yep, it happens. Tina says, oh, they're hiking in heaven. Pretty much the same words as Brian had said, Mom, we're hiking in heaven. So what did that show us? That showed us that these two boys met on the other side of physical life. They met in heaven. That they were helping each other and working together and being buddies. That they arranged for their mothers, Elizabeth and Jody, to meet. And that they're happy, healthy, and whole. They're having a grand old time. Friendships are made in heaven.
So just think about this. How many of you have heard about or had the experience of knowing that you've met another parent here and that the kids have met somehow? A medium has confirmed it, or maybe there's been some wild synchronicity, some freaky deaky coincidence that shows you that they're communicating together. It's not an accident. There's so much joy and so much planning and so much fun in the planning that goes on the other side of life for the kids of all ages, whether they're little children or whether they're in their 60s, to figure out how are we going to make this happen? How are we going to have our parents connect? Or they say, our parents have met. I'm coming by to meet you because guess what? My dad met your dad. Or, it's no accident when you feel an affinity for another parent, when you have a vibe for someone in this club that no one wants to join. Explore that, be willing to be open, because the kids are celebrating every connection that you make here is very important to them, and it makes them proud of you, and friendships truly are made in heaven. I wanted to talk with you about one of the questions that I receive is, will my child have reincarnated by the time I get there? Or will they look like somebody else? Could they have had another life? And I get to the other side and, they're in the form of that life. Or if it's been 40 years from the time they left the physical world, will they have aged 40 years when I get there? I think that is a very legitimate question. All questions are legitimate. This is just our human nature wants to look at life in a linear fashion. I mean, we're living in space-time. Right now where I am, it's going on 5:30 p.m. I'm thinking at 6:30 I'll do this, at 7:30 I'll do that. This is the way we think. In reality, what happens is we connect in the manner that is just right for both us and the loved one in spirit. And it can even suit the moment in time. Now, everything that I tell you here is pretty much a term I've heard is spiritual hearsay. We'll really know for sure when we get there again, right? But when you work in evidential mediumship, you get a really good feeling for this time where the spirit world is bringing the medium something important to teach to others. It'll just be best if I just tell you the story. In separate instances, I've done an individual session with the father of a young woman and the mother of the young woman about a year or so apart. In each session, each parent had seen their daughter in a dream visit. How did they know it was a dream visit and not just a dream? Well, here's a couple of hints for you. If it's like their personality, it's loving, it's very intense, very realistic. You may even hug, but you just feel this soaring, amazing, indefinable joy in the dream. And it's more real. People will say that the dream visit is more real than just living here on day-to-day earth. And it's short and it's to the point. That is more than likely a dream visit and not just a dream. Sometimes, often actually, the thought is transmitted from the spirit loved one rather than seeing their lips move. And in fact, I've asked people before, in your dream visit, did your loved one's lips, did their lips move? And they'll say, yeah. And I'm like, really? So you stopped and you looked at the mouth? Oh, now that you mention it, I'm not sure. So all of these characteristics, short, sweet, to the point, intense, realistic, like their personality, and can be very unexpected. I'm going to give that a 99.9%. That's a dream visit. Okay. If it is in any way negative, upsetting, scary, or that phrase I use, scary, bad, evil. I don't like the scary, bad, evil stuff. And it goes on and on and on. And it's like it's a movie and it could have credits and all these different scenes are happening. That's probably a dream, nightmare, something that you ate the night before. Well, in these two sessions at the end, each parent told me about their dream visit. For, I'm just going to call them mom and dad. For dad, his daughter came in as a little girl, 8 or 9 years old. She was about 18, just about to turn 18 when she passed. But in dad's dream visit, she's 8 or 9. She has her hair in pigtails. And they are in a place that they used to go together for gelato, ice cream, sundaes, things like that. And it was a place that they would go for their time together. It was her personality. She was mature, though. She was giving him a very mature thought about, Dad, I'm proud of you. I really like that you're back to living your life again. Okay, a year apart or so, mom has the dream visit, and the daughter comes into her about 20, which would be the age she would have been on physical earth. They meet in a beautiful white room. Everything's white. There's a white sofa, white walls, beautiful white crystals all around. And mom remembers looking around and thinking, this is exactly how she would have her room. This is how, the crystals, oh, this is nice. And again, it was loving, it's intense, it's realistic. it's her personality. And it was really just to give her a hug. And mom felt the hug. So at the end of the session, the second session, why is it? This is the question I get. Why did dad see their daughter so young and mom see the daughter the age she would be on physical earth? Remember, the young lady crossed over at about 18 and mom seeing her at about 20, and that fit the time frame for how long she had been on the other side. So why does that happen? The key is in the emotion. The key is in what each parent needed. Our loved ones on the other side are powerful. You are powerful. You're just not completely on the other side yet. You will be in your proper time. They're powerful, and that power allows them to see and know our hearts completely and know what we need from them in order to feel their love without any constraints, without any limitations or barriers. For dad, that was those precious moments, getting the gelato, the ice cream sundaes. He even recalled one time when her ponytails or pigtails were long, getting ice cream all over one. He's talking to me and he's like, these are really happy memories. Mom wanted a reassurance deep down that her daughter was enjoying life and going on with life, but in a different place. Now, that begs the question, what about when you get there to the other side? And I want to address their reincarnation question. For years, I would say, oh my gosh, that just gives me such a bad headache when people ask, will my loved one be gone? And the only way I knew how to answer it was to say, look, I'm an evidential medium. I've been scientifically tested in double-blind, triple-blind experiments written about in scientific papers. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm so adamant, that I've never, ever had a soul or a guide come in and say, yeah, Susie can't connect right now because she's reincarnated in another country. It's never, ever happened. Never, ever happened. Well, I've realized over the years that's not really reassuring enough. So what I want to do is just ask those of you who are concerned about that to consider this. Would a loving divine source create a heaven, a world in which your loved one would not be available to you? Would it be heaven if they were not there and if they were not them? And also to stop yourself when you find yourself applying earthly physics to interdimensional physics. We don't know if they have a set of physics in this dimension that we call Summerland, heaven, Valhalla, whatever words that you want to call this. We're not dual beings. We're beyond the old saying of you're a spirit inhabiting a physical body. That's nice, but let's go a step further. You're a multi-dimensional being. And it is entirely probable, in my opinion, not just possible, that we can be in more places than one. Okay, how many times a day do you find yourself daydreaming and it is as though you have traveled to another place? Perhaps you have. A part of your consciousness has traveled and you're not limited to the body. So even in our daily physical lives, we can be in more than one place with our consciousness. I feel very comfortable making an assurance that you will never lose your child. You will never lose your parent. You will never lose whoever it is, your pet that you love that has gone into the heavenly dimension. and that you will recognize each other in the way that you need to recognize each other. I would like to refer you to the teachings of the spirit guide Silver Birch. I feel that there are probably many of you that are familiar with the teachings, but some may be new. Silver Birch was a spirit guide that represented a collective consciousness, and Silver Birch spoke through the evidential medium Morris Barbanel, and this is mid-20th century. And if you look at the teachings of Silver Birch, which have been studied by the spiritualists and many others, and are very consistent in the information that they give, the other side, or the heavenly dimension, is not only real, but in many ways more realistic than how we are living here in the physical earth. So one could argue that it could be the ones on the other side that would wonder how we're doing here. And they do pray for us. They do send us love. They do act as sometimes guides to us. They do celebrate with us in our joys, and they do commiserate with us and try to lift us up in our sorrows. But that is, in some respects, in many respects, in my mind and my heart, that is the real world where your children are. That is the real world. And although they wear a similar body, their bodies do not break down, die, get sick, or get injured. And not only that, but the truth of what's in our hearts, as the teachings goes, cannot be hidden. So there is no subterfuge. There is no diplomacy. You can't get away with a white lie. I know, darn it. It is what is truly in our hearts that creates our environment around us. And so as you think of your child and you think of them going on and having friendships and relationships and those who love them, and you think about it being unlimited, what a wonderful existence that is. And they look forward to showing you around on your arrival. You're not going to somehow be two ships that pass in the night when it's your time to arrive. They want you to arrive at your natural time in the way that is going to unfold in this physical world for whatever reasons that will be explained later, but they can't wait to show you around. And when they meet you, the most important thing is your comfort. That's where they'll use their superpower to get into your heart and your mind and know, should I be like this? Should I be like that? You will get what you need when you meet. And then the two of you can decide, heck, when I get there, I might want to be 25 for a while, but I'll certainly, check in with my loved ones. I have more there now than I had a couple of years ago. And I'll ask them, you guys mind if I go back to 25? And they'll probably say, do what you want to do. But when we first meet, we're agreeing to help and support and love each other so that we have comfort and so that our transition is as seamless as possible. So that when we begin remembering who we really are as not just dual, but multi-dimensional beings, we're not quite so overwhelmed because the child is there, the parents are there, the family members, the pets are there as we remember them, as we know them. And I don't know about you, but I find a lot of comfort in knowing that there's a party. I find a lot of comfort in knowing that there is planning that goes on, and in knowing that my heart is truly, truly known by the loved ones on the other side, and that I will have what I need upon arrival. You will have what you need upon arrival. I also want to tell you that it is perfectly fine to think of your child at different ages. I've been asked a few times, when it's so weird, but my son was in his 40s, but I keep thinking of him in college. And invariably, we explore that a little bit, chit chat a little bit, and find that that's when the son just got out of college and they spent a lot of time together. He moved back home for a while. I'm like, well, you have a concentration of memories there. So he may come to you in a dream visit, or you may glimpse him, at all those peripheral vision little glimpses that you get. Or I mentioned the subjective clairvoyance, where a picture just pops into your head. It would make sense to see the child at that age when you had all those happy memories. But I think the bottom line is to not overthink, to be open, and to be willing to receive signs and symbols, synchronicities, dream visits in the time and in the manner that they come to you. And then finally, I want to remind folks, and I know you've heard this from many teachers, I want to remind you to make notes. We learn about how our communication comes to us best by keeping a journal, keeping notes, just the date, what happened. And then you can look back. You have a wonderful keepsake of notebook. Then on the days when you're really down, you can pick up and just open a random page, and by reading about that day you got that feather, or the penny came from heaven while you were thinking about them, or the song played on the radio, just by even reading about it, you not only increase your own vibration and feel a little bit better, but it can send another hello from you, reminding them that it's time for another sign. So stay open, try to not overthink it. Know that there are a lot of explanations that we won't get until we get to the other side at our rightful time. And be assured that not only is no one lost or reincarnated and unavailable, it just doesn't happen, but they're closer to you than you can even imagine. And so with that, I think it would be nice to see if there are any questions. I'm not quite sure how long you generally meet for, but while we do that, I'd like to ask Elizabeth for some input
Yes.
about Morgan and some of the things he's done since going to the other side. He's been very helpful to you.
The different signs that he's shown me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they never stop. In fact, we have a question in the chat box about it's from Deanna, and she's asking, my daughter passed in 2009. Is it too late to connect with her? And I had written back that Chelsea passed in 1991 and Morgan passed in 2009, and I feel like they are so much a part of my life all the time. I mean, I feel that they are constantly moving a few steps ahead of me and putting things on the ground, or making these beautiful hawks come into my vision as I'm hiking, or there are so many different things that have happened. One of the most significant thing that happened, and this has happened several times, is that I've had bobcats who have visited us in Spurcross and actually come up to us. They're not, I would not recommend for anyone to allow a bobcat to come too close to them, but this was kind of amazing. They were purring. Morgan was a wildcat at the University of Arizona. So his team, he was a cheerleader. They were the Wildcats. In fact, one of his best friends was Wilbur Wildcat, and the mascot. And so to be able to have these come up to us, but on very significant days. One happened on Morgan's birthday, and it was just amazing. And we take pictures of these things that happen too. And in fact, when I took the picture of the bobcat, I went back to the car. I couldn't see what time it was on my phone. And I looked at the picture and it said 11/23, which is actually Morgan's birthday. So I had taken the picture exactly at that time. So there are so many things that they do. The most important thing is being open to the signs and recognizing them. So, but we have lots of other questions too. Is it okay if I ask you a few questions from our?
Yes, go ahead. And I just thought of something too. Not that I'd forgotten about, but last week I was standing in line in Porto, in Portugal. I was standing in line to go into not a church, I forget what it's called, but it was a historical building. And there was a group in front of me all speaking Spanish. And at one point when we turned, they could see me here, and the woman just caught her breath. And she goes like that. And then she had the whole family look at me, and I'm like, what? Spinach between my teeth? It can't be that big a deal. I looked like a family member who had just passed this year. And for one of them, it was their daughter. And this woman wanted to hug me. I hugged the heck out of that woman, right? So I was used there too. I didn't even have a message that wasn't about the message. It was for them to see her. And I thought, well, it's a good thing I went gray because she was gray. Anyways, yeah, let's take a question.
Again, it's platinum blonde. It's not great.
Oh,
That's
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
here.
That's a
So
good one, EVB. I'm going to go with that.
anyway, Valerie's asking, and I know what you're going to respond, but I just want to reassure everyone who's here because you did speak about suicide. She says, looking for reassurance that kids who have passed by suicide don't have to relive the pain that led them to end their lives. Could you just maybe reassure her that that
Just
would
walk
never
through
happen?
they just walk through the door. They literally just walk through the door. And I've never heard anyone say, oh, it's so painful, and oh my God, and oh, they're gonna, make me watch all of that. It's walking through a door. It's you're an interdimensional being. Why would you let something painful from one dimension define you? It cannot. The soul is bigger than how the body died. Period.
That's beautiful. And I agree 100%. And any way of transition is exactly the same for all of us at Helping Parents Heal. Every single method of transition. There are so many exit points. I think that Morgan told us that he was going to pass in a car accident coming back from the University of Arizona if he hadn't passed at the base camp of Mount Everest. So I completely believe that. It's just a matter of a little bit of time, but there are many different ways to transition. And I know that some of them are particularly painful, but they are for us as parents, but they aren't painful for the kids. Never, ever, ever. Never for our loved ones. And so Sue is asking, have you ever read for someone with a handicapped, so I would say disabled child who is still physically here, but is unable to speak?
I have connected in consciousness with people in different states of, for example, Alzheimer's, coma. It's a connection in consciousness. It's not something I seek as an evidential medium. It has just transpired. So I wouldn't encourage somebody to set up the session with me for that particular purpose, but it has happened spontaneously.
It's amazing, and how beautiful to have something like that happen. Um, uh, Melissa is asking a question that I thought was very interesting. She says, my son lived to create. I just want to know he's still making his powerful and wonderful artistic creations on the other side. Can I ask for him to show me in a dream? If so, how can I do this in the correct way to connect truly with him? I heard a medium say that they don't have physicality and can't taste or eat food. I felt sad and wondered if he can't create there because it brought him so much joy.
I think that's a great question. I really appreciate the bravery in asking a question and being vulnerable like this. I have good news, and that is we're creating our experience in the dimension that we know as heaven. And so for me, I battled my weight my whole life because I love to cook and I love to eat, and I'm a foodie. And that's part of why I love to travel. And if I can't eat on the other side, I'm going to knock on St. Peter's door or somebody's door and complain. But the good news is I've brought through so many souls saying, yeah, I eat, I can taste, I do this. And others in the same session, another soul coming in with that one going, yeah, I don't know why you still do that. No use for it. I've also seen artworks that are amazing that were created on the other side of life. I can remember describing a beautiful wall-sized mural to a woman whose husband was on the other side. This is what he's painted. She goes, "Oh my gosh, that's a lot like the one that he did when he was here, only way bigger." So yeah, I think the difficulty is different mediums have different communications and different experiences encapsulated within those communications. So don't let one person be your expert. Explore, read, and experience.
That's beautifully said. And I just want to say that we have a few questions that I think both you and I can answer very easily. Melissa is saying, I've been told to wait 6 months before contacting a medium so that he has time to transition. Is this right? And then there's another mom who's saying, my son passed 2 weeks ago. Is it too soon to try to connect? So, what would you say to that?
I would say it's the state of the sitter, meaning you, the person getting the session, that matters the most. That said, there are souls that if they have, for example, gone through a lot of cancer treatments and things like that, they may want to get to the other side and just chill out and just enjoy themselves before they put together all of their energy and learn how to communicate and go to those whose job it is to help get the communication through. It is work, but it's fun work that they enjoy. But my number one concern is this, that the sitter, if they're crying and they can't hear what I'm saying, they can't process. Think about this. You're sitting in an audience and even somebody else getting a reading, you're not really processing because you get really excited. Now let's imagine it's your reading and you're very distressed and you're in the thickest part of the grief. That grief needs to be honored before you can even open up your ears and your heart and hear what's coming through in the reading. And it's an investment of money too. So don't put out a bunch of money for that session if you're not even going to be able to process it or hear it. Give yourself time and honor your grief.
That's beautiful. And we have some other questions too about well, about whether or not it's too early to be able to speak to our children. I think that you really did hit the nail on the head, though. I think that it depends on the space that the parents are, most of all, because for me, I was so ready to hear from Morgan, and right then you were there. It was only maybe a week later that you went to speak to Angie at the yoga studio. So, and Morgan certainly did come through, barreling through to you at that point, which was pretty amazing. But we have some other questions. Tracy's asking, can our children know that they are going to cross over early? My daughter left hints over the years and made a drawing in high school that portrayed what would be her life when she would cross over, or even down to where she would live and who would kill her. I pieced all this together from going through her things and looking back at her life.
It's more than possible. We have cases on record from about 200 years of afterlife communication of people having precognition, prescience, knowing, and they don't know a lot of the detail. That level of detail is very interesting to me. But mainly what I've seen and read about is that a parent will say, I have these kids, I love them and adore them, but I felt like this one may not be here forever. I don't know why I would feel that, but I get this tug at my heart. And then sometimes the parent will say, was I supposed to do something to prevent their physical passing? Because I had that knowing. And the answer is no. Your soul had that knowing because it was going to happen. And the soul in some way is preparing you because you are that multidimensional being. So the child can know, and the parent or the loved one who is staying longer can have a knowing because of our multidimensionality. Doesn't mean we're responsible to prevent or to do something or to get something done before that happens. But there are feelings. The other side of the coin are those kids who say, Mommy, do you remember when you were my mommy and we lived in the other place? And they're describing like ancient Mesopotamia or something like that. So they have memories from past incarnations being in the same family. It runs the whole gamut of our existence that we can touch upon a memory and we can somehow have that bubble up for just a moment. Fortunately, we don't get, it passes really quickly. We don't get like obsessed with these things. Like the child will say something, the mother will just go, okay, and kind of file it away and then think about it later. When you come to that point of you're thinking about it later, the takeaway for your soul is meant to be everything is in its natural order. Everything is in its natural order. We are still connected. That is the takeaway.
That's beautiful, and it's completely true. And I must say that when Morgan was leaving to go to China for the last time, and he was studying abroad, we were packing his suitcase the day before. And as we were packing it, he told me, Mom, I don't think I'm coming back from China this time. And I said, Morgan, what do you mean? You don't even need these credits. You can stay here and cheer and not go to China. And he said, Mom, I'll be fine. And he is fine. He is fine. And it's obviously it is easy to say to yourself, oh gosh, he told me that, so I should have listened to him. But it would have happened no matter what. I truly
It was another gift.
Yes, it was a wonderful gift for me to know that he already realized this um, and I think that he was living his life to its fullest. Carrie is saying, why does it feel like the longer my child is gone, the less signs I get? Is that something that maybe you could address?
I think it's a good idea to remind them, but also be willing to shift your expectation about what kind of sign that you're expecting. And so, for example, if you're always getting the feathers, stop looking for feathers and say, look, I know you're creative. What are you up to now? I'm going to pay attention and really pay attention. It might be something else that's happening, but also talk to the other family members. Talk to the other family members. I've seen these things where it is sort of like they go on these runs of like all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom for a sister. So you might ask somebody else in the family if they're the ones getting all the signs, because we're supposed to share. It's not just for us, it's supposed to be for the other loved ones whose hearts and minds are open and willing to accept the bounty, the gifts of the signs. So it literally could be somebody else in the family that they're concentrating on. It literally could be that they're not tracking how much time has passed in between signs, or it could be they've shifted into something else and you need to pay attention because you're about to get bonked in the head with something completely different and fun.
That's really fun. Yes. So start looking for different signs. That's a great thing to tell everyone. We have very little time left. We have about 4 minutes left. And one of the things that I love the most that you've done online is a meditation or an explanation for getting dream visits from our loved ones and how to go about that. Could you maybe just kind of do a resume about the best ways to get those dream visits for everyone on here?
Okay, well, you know, it's amazing because I hear from people all over the world, and it's like my lowest production values. It's dark. It's like, man, the stuff that you just do real quick, all of a sudden in a dark room, people love. And so I've done more. I've done a lot more stuff for you guys to look at on social media. But I'm going to tell you about the dream visits. There is a process, and it seems to pay off. And first off, you pick one night a week. For me, it's Sunday night. I know Sunday is going to be sort of like my open mic night because I can't just order up grandma and grandpa like a burger and fries. I'm sorry. I'm gifted, but I'm not God. So I request, and I will put an object of theirs or a picture of theirs by my bed. I'll have a sticky note on the mirror with their name, remind myself when I see that sticky note, when I brush my teeth. I will use water by the bed. I'll have a glass of water because water is a great spirit conductor. I'll light a candle. I'll make sure I blow it out before I go to sleep. So they've got an invitation. I reminded them I will have joy about it and that I'm looking forward to it. And as I fall asleep with a great memory of that loved one. If you're falling asleep all sad or like, dang it, I hope you show up tonight because my gosh, you just want to fall asleep with a great memory and gratitude for having had them in your life. And try it that, if it doesn't work that one night, 1 week later, do it again. 1 week later, do it again. Now, if I tell you it takes 4 or 5 times, somebody will write me and say it happened on the second time, or somebody will say it happened on the 10th time. I just know that it works, that you get there eventually if you just be consistent and be open, and it works.
Yes, and I've had lots of people tell me that it works as well. So I'm really glad that you were able to explain it. And I see that there's information about the different sessions that are available. Susanne hasn't been doing any readings for quite some time, but I think that you now are doing readings. Is that correct?
Yes, the doors are open. I did take some time off from evidential mediumship. I've never taken time off from teaching or spirit guides or the psychic work, but yes, evidential mediumship is back on, and I do have individual sessions for as long as I physically can do individual sessions. I have a Carefree Souls Club that they have access to all of my trainings online, which is like a lot. And we meet live for a satsang, which is a truth community once a month, and do things like that too. Getting ready to have an event with Brian Smith on June 20th that's called the ABCs of ADCs. And I'm sure we'll record that too. So even if you're watching this as a recording later on, there's going to be a lot of training out there. I hope that you can join us.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for telling us about it. And it was wonderful to have Diane on here as well. And maybe Diane, if you'd like to unmute and just say hi. Diane is Suzanne's assistant. So she's the person that you might be going through if you're booking different things, but she's also a Shining Light parent. And I've known her from the beginning of my journey. So are you doing well?
Yes, I am doing very well, and I enjoy all of these sessions that we do on helping parents heal. I think it's very wonderful that you are able to bring in such a wide variety of people to talk to the parents and bring in some of their information. And I really appreciate being able to participate with Susanne Wilson, who I love dearly. I am her assistant. If anyone ever needs to chat with me, you can reach me at Diane, Diane, at carefreemedium.com. I have a wonderful presence. I understand parents because I've gone through it, and I look forward to meeting some of you in the future. Thank you.
And she's an author. Her book's coming out.
Oh, yay! Can't wait to
Yes.
hear.
Shining
That
Light, you're an
too.
author.
Oh,
Right.
that's wonderful. Well, thank you, Diane, and thank
Thank
you, Anne. And we always ask everyone else to unmute and say thank you and good night as
Thank
well.
you, Irene.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank
Oh,
you,
Susanne, so good
Thank
to see you.
Suzanne.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Suzanne.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Suzanne.
God
bless you.
Everyone,
Good night, everybody.
have a wonderful
Night,
evening.
everyone.
Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks,
See you
Diane.
tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.